Happy are people who are hopeless, because the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Happy are people who grieve, because they will be made glad. Happy are people who are humble, because they will inherit the earth. Happy are people who are hungry and thirsty for righteousness, because they will be fed until they are full. Happy are people who show mercy, because they will receive mercy. Happy are people who have pure hearts, because they will see God. Happy are people who make peace, because they will be called God's children. Happy are people whose lives are harassed because they are righteous, because the kingdom of heaven is theirs.
Well, they were persecuted, and because of it, we are blessed. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving today from my family to you and to your family. I am so grateful for you and all who've been a part of 938 this past year and really how well God has brought us together. I want to tell the story of the first Thanksgiving, and you may or may not remember this. It's been a long time since I looked at the details. Well, it was 1620, and a, a group of mostly persecuted religious minorities boarded the Mayflower, along with a few businessmen, and they crossed the Atlantic Ocean. It took them 66 days. Most of them were sick by the time they got to the shores of the United States. And turns out that they arrived well north of where they had planned. There had been settlements further south in Virginia, but they landed in Plymouth, Massachusetts, well north, and they got there right before winter. There was not going to be any harvesting. There was not going to be really much food at all. They were going to need to last the winter, staying on the Mayflower itself as it sat in the harbor. So, after being on board that ship for 66 days, another 3 months, over half of the 102 people who made the voyage had died. They had suffered and they had struggled. And then coming off that boat, in the spring, they needed to start thinking about how they're going to find seed, how they're going to turn over soil, how they're going to plant and harvest and flourish in this new world. And then, like a miracle, a man walked out of the woods towards that ship one day. He was what we call Native American, or what they knew then, an Indian, and he had come to the ship. And turns out this was a man who, though he was indigenous to the area, spoke perfect English. Somehow, based upon the settlements that had been there before in the South, this man had already sailed to England 4 times. He spoke perfect English, and he was the person of peace. He was the person who was going to help them build a friendship with the local tribes and to learn how to farm on this New England soil. And 9 months later, this man brought tribes together with the original participants in the Mayflower, and they celebrated their first harvest together. 3 days they came together to celebrate how God had provided for them. Now, a lot of history has happened since then, but they started something that we get to celebrate every year. We get to be reminded of God's great provision for us. And Thanksgiving didn't begin with the pilgrims. Thanksgiving it goes back 3,000 years into ancient Israel. And we celebrate, yes, again, we celebrate again and again how God has been faithful and how we can live a life of gratitude towards Him. This is a short message, a short message to close our series, A New Kind of Community. We began this 8 weeks ago, 7 Sundays ago, and we have been talking about Jesus' vision for life. As we come together to be a community, what does it mean for us to be together. And in the Beatitudes, we don't see commands that we're supposed to perform or things we're supposed to achieve, rather wisdom that if we can accept, we can experience and receive things from God no other way than accepting this wisdom for what it is. And if these things can happen, bam, we see God do something very special. So this week, the final week, we are reflecting upon, well, what the pilgrims experienced. Blessed are those who are persecuted, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. The scriptures go on where Jesus talks about being persecuted for his name. Well, let's jump. Our series has had 3 points each time: accept, receive, bam. So let's start with acceptance. What do we need to accept out of this? First of all, there's no way out of persecution. Whatever direction you take in life, you will be resisted by someone. We live in a diverse world and everyone has a different opinion, and there will never be an occasion where everybody agrees on everything, right? Maybe you're driving to your Thanksgiving dinner. Yes, no one's going to agree on anything. Are you okay with that? One of the best things about watching sports, and you might be doing that today, is that as I'm watching sports, I get to offer my opinion on what the players and the managers do. And I love saying things like, oh, that's a bad idea. And then I get to make my case for it. And either I'm proven wrong and we all ignore that and forget that that happened, or I'm proven right and I get to declare how right I am to everybody else. Why? Because I had a different opinion than the manager. I had a different opinion than the head coach. And it's sort of an American pastime. That's why we love football. We have all this time in between the plays to talk about what the players did wrong beforehand. Everybody's got an opinion. And I get the opportunity to express my opinion and without anybody really having to deal with it, right? In life, everyone has an opinion. And whether they say it or not, people will disagree. And when you get going in a direction, they will push back on you. There is no way of avoiding resistance. There's no way of avoiding persecution. Accept it. Second thing to accept is this. You can get persecuted for doing the wrong thing. Jesus says, hey, look, if you're going to be associated with me, you're going to be persecuted for that. If you follow me, you're going to get resistance. You're going to get pushed back on that. Now, early in my faith journey and along my faith journey of leadership, I have found myself getting pushed back and resistance and persecution. And I took it so seriously. I'd say, I'm getting persecuted and I'd be miserable about it. Jesus says, well, blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness. See, I wasn't being persecuted because of Jesus. I wasn't being persecuted because of righteousness. I was being persecuted for being dumb or arrogant or being foolish. Sometimes I thought the persecution was actually a spiritual warfare against me. The truth is, there was a lot of times where I thought I was being persecuted when it's really somebody protecting me from being dumb. There's persecution we're going to get generally out there. There's the persecution we're going to get for being dumb. But Jesus says, look, here's the thing. If you're going to follow me, people are going to resist you. If you're going to follow me, people are going to push back on you. If you're going to follow me, people are just not going to understand my way. You just need to understand that people are not going to understand my way, and they're going to resist you. And maybe you're thinking about this as you go to visit with your family, and your faith has taken some fresh wings, and you've been growing. You know that that's not going to necessarily be welcomed at home. Well, Jesus says this: happy are those who are persecuted for righteousness. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness. Why? Well, yours is the kingdom. When you are persecuted for righteousness, this is what you can receive. First of all, the opportunity to become wise. As we mature in life, we will grow an increased appreciation for understanding people who are different than us. And as we understand our faith more crisply, we're going to actually see more and more ways where our faith is the basis for so many other good things in this world. And how in many ways there's no disagreement between what God has called us to, what Jesus has given us, and what the world around us thinks. Uh, but there are places and there are going to be times where we're going to experience persecution. It gives us an opportunity to simply ask the question, am I being is this persecution because of Jesus? Or is this just somebody persecuting me? Now, sometimes you think you should do this and you know that this isn't necessarily connected to your faith that much. You're whether it's it's a small decision you make, or this thing out here that you feel like God has given you the option. Some people may resist that, but there's going to be aspects of your faith where you might be specifically resisted. Is it because of Jesus, or is it because of you? Most of the time when you're persecuted, it really isn't about you. Maybe it's something about that other person, what's going on in their mind. And certainly when it is about Jesus, it's not about you. And here's the good news in this. If it's about Jesus, and if you're being persecuted for your faith in Jesus, you don't have to react. You can simply rest. You don't have to react when people persecute you in the name of Jesus, because it's not about you in the first place. Jesus can handle himself. You don't have to react. You can rest. Hear that. When you are persecuted because of Jesus, you do not need to react. Just rest. Their problem isn't with you. It's with Jesus. They may have a problem with you associating with Jesus or agreeing with Jesus, but at the end of the day, their problem isn't with you. It is with him. So relax, rest. Jesus bore the ultimate persecution on the cross. The ultimate persecution so that we could be blessed. He can handle whatever people are bringing against you. If you can accept this and receive this wisdom, bam. Why? Because then you become someone who can enjoy people who disagree with you, who can pray for those who persecute you, and who can love even those who make themselves your enemy. One of the hardest, and I'm going to challenge you here, one of the hardest and yet at the same time best parts of family is that you aren't together because you agree with each other, because you share the same opinions. You are together because you're a family, and your family identity runs deeper than your opinions. A follower of Jesus does not need people to agree with him or her. A follower of Jesus is just much bigger than that. A follower of Jesus does not need other people to like them. We are loved and cared for by the creator of this world. We don't need everybody to like us. We don't need everyone to agree with us. And what does a follower of Jesus' way, and when we learn his way, what do we do when somebody persecutes us? Jesus teaches us very specifically. He says this: love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. When you get this, bam, you are different. As Christians, I would love for us to think of ourselves differently. We are not a voter bloc or just a member of an organization. Seriously, I want to invite you to think of yourself tremendously differently. Think of yourself I'm serious here, like a Navy SEAL, or even like an Avenger, like someone with a superpower. See, we are people charged and equipped to do something that no one in this world ever has done before. What is that? Love our enemies. Pray for those who persecute us. The very Spirit that was in Jesus that enabled him to go to the cross without reaction, without fear, without cursing his enemies, but blessing, is the same Spirit that lives in you and me. And it's time for us as Christians. We got to take that seriously. We have to give up on the pipe dream of trying to find that little mini world where everybody agrees with us. We just need to get used to the fact that we are going to be persecuted for our relationship with Jesus. We're regularly going to be in a place where people disagree with us. We're regularly going to be in a place where we are misunderstood. Yes, we will be persecuted. And we could pray for those who persecute us. Why? Well, Jesus prays for us. We can love our enemies. Why? Because Jesus has loved us. Because at the end of the day, it's not about us anymore. It really isn't. And when it is about Jesus, you can be happy. You can be blessed when you are persecuted for righteousness. Happy Thanksgiving.